Hello and welcome to a new episode of I Bought Another Thing That Some People Have Bought Years Earlier. As per the title, it's an Xbox One S. This is a special edition Fortnite bundle. I don't play Fortnite, and if I did, it would be on the PC. I got this instead of a regular white one because it's purple, so this is actually a stealthy Hyperdimension Neptunia limited edition console. Good job, Microsoft. I enjoy seeing the world of gaming from a variety of different perspectives, which is why sometimes I joke that I have more consoles than games. With the 9th generation of consoles coming up in a few years' time, I thought it was time to familiarize myself with the only console of this generation I hadn't spent much time with. In fact, I've only played an Xbox One for a few minutes, back in 2013 when it came out. There's always been something about Xboxes that I've really enjoyed. Definitely not their naming convention though, but let's not get into that right now. I really like the original Xbox, and the franchises that spawned from it. It's interesting how the original Xbox, some may even call it an Xbox One, ended up being the first non-Japanese console to reach any sort of popularity since the Atari days. And I like that the Xbox entered the market just as Sega exited it. It would have been sad if the amount of competition lessened, though technically in Japan you could say that the Xbox is basically not even a player. Also, this console will be put to good use for the channel, as it'll help me get footage of multi-platform games, so I can show you firsthand what the differences between some of the games are. This will be the last video shot on my computer desk, by the way. I've got something new. Here's the Xbox in the package. I've seen the box in the box approach with my PlayStations, and it seems the Xbox One is similar, except instead of a box, it's more like a sleeve around the box. The sleeve has Fortnite stuff on it, whereas the real box doesn't. It's just generic with the exception of the purple console. I wonder why that is. I have done a bit of packaging design in the past, so this stuff interests me. It seems like an inefficient approach, unless they plan to release a non-Fortnite purple Xbox down the line, and they already printed the boxes in bulk. By the way, have you noticed how some people in unboxing videos use ridiculous overkill knives? Since I don't plan on skinning an animal or committing murder, I'm just going to use an X-Acto knife. Afterwards, I'll just leave it around in the open where I can accidentally cut myself with it. That's how you do things. This green bit is a quick setup guide showing you how to connect a controller and put the batteries in. The side compartment holds a controller, HDMI cable, power cable, and some batteries for the controller. Say what you will, but I love the fact that the Xbox One controller still uses proper AA's. Sounds like a Canadian thing. I'd like a double AA, bud. I think collectors will agree how annoying it can be to have to replace lithium-ion batteries. A lot of reproduction batteries are literally garbage, but rechargeable AA's will always exist. Panasonic Eneloops for the win. Just so you know, you can run the controller with a USB cable without batteries, so that's a good thing you can do. If we look a bit harder into the box, we can see a console is included as well. I really like the way it looks. Sorry for the moody lighting. At first glance, it can look black, but it's actually purple. There's a gradient on the console with the holy bit being darker. The controller is the darker shade of the gradient. I noticed that the package contains less stuff than the PS4 and even the 360. Noticeably absent was a headset, not that I really care. My PS4 came with a tiny earbud one, but nothing with the Xbox 3. While I don't use headsets, including even a rudimentary one would have been a nice thing for people who don't want to buy or can't afford a headset right away. Now that we're looking at the back of the console, it's a good time to talk about some features that I like. Unlike the PS4 Slim, the Xbox One S retained the optical out port. Thank goodness. I like optical out for a number of reasons. Mainly it's just nice to have options, and it's easy to convert the signal into analog for an older receiver or something like that. I also like that the One S finally dropped the massive power brick. Thank you, Microsoft. When's the last time you commended someone on dropping a massive brick? There's a gigabit LAN port, an IR out for home theater controlling purposes, and 3 USB ports. One's at the front. My initial reaction was that I'd prefer 2 out the front, but I realized I've never connected more than one thing at a time with my PS4, so I'll probably not have a problem here. The second HDMI port is there for pass-through purposes. I don't have much use for it, but some people connect their TV boxes to it and watch and control their TV through the Xbox. It would have been more useful for me if the snap feature was still present so you could play a game and watch whatever HDMI source you want on the same screen, or any other app for that matter. That would have been nice, but I guess they needed to free up some processing power or memory or something. When I bought the system, I thought the feature still existed, and I was actually really looking forward to using it. You can still run a few music things in the background. You can't rip CDs though, which is too bad. I would have really liked that. You can have a CD play music while you're, gaming, but that doesn't exactly work if you have a physical copy. I don't subscribe to music streaming services, but if you do, you can use that. You can also put individual files on the system, so that's alright. Plus you can stream over network apparently, but I'm lazy to set that stuff up. Then I'll just, listen to whatever music's in the game. A lot of times that's just part of the charm, right? Soundtracks become iconic, like with Need for Speed Underground. Let's get to actually using the system. The setup process, which I didn't record, is relatively lengthy for a gaming console in my opinion. There's quite a few multimedia functions that you need to set up, or in my case, mostly disable. The system updates at the same time too. After the setup, I spend a bit of time going through the settings, making sure I've got the proper privacy settings, as well as audio and video settings. Extended HDMI color space is called PC RGB, so I had to turn that on. The console came with a month of Xbox Game Pass, as well as Live Gold. I like that they included Game Pass for free for a month, since it allows you to download a bunch of games and give them a go. Not to mention, you don't need to spend a lot of money on games right after purchasing the system. Because stuff like that is hidden costs, right? So basically you can just take the system, take it out of the box, set it up, update it, and just play. I'm not a fan of the menus on the Xbox One, at least not initially. It's segmented in strange ways, and while I can't quite remember what the menu looked like back in 2013, I'm pretty sure it was different. Bringing up all your games and apps requires you to go through more layers than I think is necessary. Pressing the home button brings up an overlay like the 360, except it's offset to the side, presumably as to not obscure the game completely. You can access most things you need from here. I guess I can understand why it was done this way. It's a way to navigate menus without switching away completely from whatever is on the screen. You get used to it after a while, so it's not like you can't find stuff. In terms of usability, I prefer the PS4 just because it's a bit simpler and there's seemingly less layers. I also like how you can choose between sleep mode and just turning the system off on the PS4. The Xbox One doesn't let you choose when holding down the power button, or the home button, I mean. You need to go into the settings and choose between the two modes. I like the Xbox controller. I'm not really sure if I'd consider it better or worse than a Switch or PS4 controller. It's got its thing going on, and there's a lot of reasons why, for certain things I prefer one over the other. There's things I like and dislike about the Xbox controller. Firstly, it's a bit cheap feeling. The sound of hitting the controller sticks against the controller body is hollow and clacky, a bit unpleasant, and the buttons have a similar attribute, making the thing come across as a bit low quality. On the other hand, like all Xbox controllers, except for the original monstrosity of the first Xbox console, the Xbox One controller fits exceptionally well in my hands. I really like the trigger and shoulder buttons. I think they're great for driving. The triggers allow for a good range of motion and they bottom out softly, which some people may not like, and I think I don't like it in shooting games that much. I'd like some more authoritative feedback in that regard. But I guess that's what the haptic feedback's for. The shoulder buttons are really easy to press, again something I like in driving games when shifting gears, because I do that thing where I use my middle fingers for the throttle and brake, and then I use my index fingers for shifting. I like the way the buttons and triggers have a very three-dimensional shape, which allows me to press the buttons straight down or from the side. Sometimes pressing on the triggers at an angle allows you to modulate throttle and braking more precisely, because you can use the same force as pressing straight down, except that this technique translates into smaller movements. The haptic feedback is better than I thought. You can feel when the wheels lock up on the left trigger and the wheel spin on the right. Makes it really easy to feel what's going on. Overall, I like the controller, and I already replaced my 360 controller for playing certain games on the computer. Also, the D-pad on the 360 is terrible, and the new one is much less terrible, so that's good. What else do I like? Well, the system is relatively quiet. I know PS4s are quiet now too, at least that's what I heard, but mine's a launch model, so it's quite loud. People always say stuff like, it sounds like a 747 taking off, but I think it's got more of an Airbus A380 vibe. I like the 4K Blu-ray support. I guess one day there'll be 4K anime, so I'm ready for that. I don't have a 4K screen and neither do I care about 4K gaming at the moment. Once it's a thing that's normal and standard everywhere, then this will be a good media box. A bit like how one of my PS3s is right now. At that point, I'll probably not care whether I'll play Xbox One games in, 1080p or 4K, so an Xbox One X isn't really worth it for me. Also, speaking of 4K, isn't it strange how none of the PlayStations can play 4K Blu-rays? This is Sony's format, after all. Oh well, I guess with an Xbox, I don't have to worry about the PlayStation censoring my anime or something. In terms of the planned graphics comparison videos I mentioned earlier, an Xbox One S is a good choice since it represents something most people have. So a base PS4, base Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and an older, mid-range gaming computer is going to be a decent and realistic representation of what people can expect graphic-wise. I haven't really talked about games yet, but I don't think I need to at the moment. I basically just played Forza Horizon 4 a whole bunch, so that's fun. I guess I might buy it after the Game Pass trial runs out. I play games, and so does the Xbox, so I think we're going to get along. Sometimes there isn't much more to it than that. My local library has a ton of Xbox One games as well, so I've got a decent selection of games to try out. Maybe an exclusive will catch my eye. Overall, I really like the Xbox One S. I like the look, I like using it. The differences between it and the other 8th gen consoles are fun, and I'm happy to know that in the future, it'll still serve me well as a 4K Blu-ray player. Thanks to all the Patreon supporters who are super generous as always. You can also help out if you so choose. There's a link on the top right. There's other places you can find me online too. For example, my Twitter is a good place to keep up with what I'm doing. All videos get posted there, including ones from the second channel. Second channel content is mainly about anime niche game news that interests me. It's just me talking with minimal editing. There's a Discord server you can join as well. Everything's linked in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.